everyone, and welcome to another Naked Truth. Trisha Hershberger here. I hope everybody had a great Valentine's Day last weekend, or if you think that Valentine's Day is bull smack, then I hope that it was completely not different than any other day. I want to say a big thank you to everyone who sent in their own Naked Truths on Valentine's Day. That's Christopher, Nathan, Hiram, Hannah, Richard, Pat, Chris, John, Jenny, Julia, Kenny, Lawrence, Prescott, and Kristen, and Will, and Michael. And that was my little yay, thank you guys for sending in vlogs dance. Awesome. This week, I want to get into a real toughie that Draggy Duck asked me a long time ago, and I've been saving it for the right opportunity, and I just felt like food for thought this week. Okay, so Draggy Duck says, "Hey Trish, idea for a topic. Censorship. I saw this picture pop up online about censorship showing an American and a Swiss newspaper with a photo of a secretary showing her nipple at work. Ooh, scandalous. The Swiss newspaper had her face blurred to protect her identity, but showed the nipple. The American newspaper had her nipple blurred, but showed her face. America being a quite heavily censored country, with indecent exposure and swearing being censored for the sake of decency, but alleged criminals being tossed in the street, going a bit past the innocent until proven guilty." I agree with you, commenter. Okay, back to what they're saying. What are your thoughts on it? Is there positive censorship? And if yes, what would that be? Who gets to decide what is appropriate then and why? Just curious. And what I would say to that is tough question. And for that, thank you for asking it, because it made me really sit down and think. And I took an extra long shower for this one to try to put all my thoughts together on this. And I think there's going to be some really interesting discussion. So I would say that my short answer to is there ever good censorship is that it depends very heavily on the situation. It depends on who the target audience is for whatever is being put out there. For example, if you're asking if there should be censorship on the Disney Channel and you know that the target audience is little kids, you probably don't want to show Game of Thrones on the Disney Channel. So something like that would be censored there because the audience has a certain expectation and they deserve to be given the expectation that they're looking for. Otherwise, they're going to go somewhere else. But that's why we have places like the internet where you can find anything you want. So I wouldn't say that there should be universal censorship across the board with no places for things really. But we'll get more into that later. I would say it also very heavily depends on who's producing the content. If you're putting a lot of your own time and money and effort into some type of content or something that you're putting out and giving to the world, you want it to reflect the things that you're trying to put out there. You don't want it to reflect something that's completely anti everything you stand for. So I think that, say you at home, if you were going to produce your own piece of content, you wouldn't want to then have it come out portraying a message that's completely opposite to what you want. So you may censor then. I don't know if that made any sense, but that's what I'm going with. So I think everyone pretty much agrees that it's very easy to get behind the idea of zero censorship because freedom of speech and freedom of thought and free exchange of ideas and all of that is amazing. And especially here in America, like that's what this country was founded on. And so we think any squelching of ideas or speech is really, really bad. And who would want to limit the free exchange of ideas? That's tyranny and it's awful. But I would say that the freedom of speech and the free exchange of ideas can also be seen as censorship's drawback. If you take a look at something like the ISIS terrorist videos where they are, beheading someone or worse, there are media outlets that don't want to show those videos. So in effect, they are censoring that content and not letting it be shared or seen. And I think that most people would argue that that's good censorship, that they're not showing those videos. And so then it comes up with, are there good types of censorship, which Draggy Duck originally asked. And I think that, when we say like those videos shouldn't be shown because that's the spread of hate, what I would consider to be the spread of hate or hateful ideas or things that to me feel just inherently wrong, they could be, that line of what's right and what's wrong is different from person to person. It's people have very subjective feelings about that. So even though I feel like that's awful and that's hate, there are other people out there in the world, I hope not many of them, but there are other people out there in the world who would say that's not hate at all and that information and that video should be consumed and should be shared. And so then we get into moral objectivity, and is there an objective right and wrong? If you believe that there is, then who is the person to say, I'm going to make the rules as to what is right and what is wrong, and therefore what should be censored and what shouldn't? And that's a huge whole other philosophical can of worms as far as moral objectivity. And if you believe that morals are completely subjective, then again, the question is raised, who is the person to say what is right and what is wrong? And for me, I don't have an answer to that question. I would defer back to the beginning of this video when I say that for me, it heavily depends on the situation. It depends who the intended audience is, and it depends whose blood, sweat, and tears is going into that content, because they should have a say in what it's saying as well. So it makes me think about YouTube comments is a great way for me to talk about censorship, because I don't have my own newspaper, really. I mean, we do the news for SourceFed, but we're an aggregate, so we take that from other sources, you know, and kind of reflect that. So if something's censored, it probably wouldn't get to us in the first place. So when I'm talking about censorship for YouTube comments, I try very hard never to censor the comment section. I don't like to remove comments because I feel like everybody's opinion should be heard, even if it's an opinion that I really don't agree with. The only exception to that for me, and this is when I would default to if it's someone putting their own money and effort and time into producing something and they want it to be a certain way. The only exception for me, as I've said numerous times, is if it's blatant hate language, or if you're just putting down other people's ideas because you really want to hear what you have to say and you're not encouraging discussion. I won't necessarily remove the comment, but I will give warnings and say, hey, can you please re-edit this so that it's either not filled with hate language, you're not belittling or insulting someone else or someone else's ideas, and you're encouraging future dialogue. But that's my line. My line's completely different, but I do have to say kudos to this comment section here on this channel, because I have maybe removed 2 comments in the year that The Naked Truth has been up and running. So kudos to you guys. Usually when I jump in there and I'm like, hey, can you be a little nicer? Can you please edit this? People do, and they get that. But again, that's my line. Everybody's line is different. So my question to you guys is there ever a time that you think that censorship is appropriate? And if so, what is that time, and who gets to decide what's right and what's wrong? Who gets to decide what's censored and what's not? And before I go, I have 2 things that I want to say real quick. I know I just talked about this channel being 1 years old. Yay, it's 1 years old. Yay, yay, everybody in the Naked Army. That's all you guys. And it's almost at 100,000 subscribers, and everybody's tweeting me and messaging me and saying, Trisha, what are you going to do when you hit 100,000 subscribers? First, I'm going to do a very happy dance. Fully clothed. Maybe I will film that happy dance. I don't know. I'm going to do something special. I don't know if it's an extra video. I don't know if I'm going to do a huge giveaway. I don't know if I'm going to upload a very embarrassing video of myself singing karaoke. I don't know. You guys let me know in the comments section what you would like for me to do to celebrate this, because it's your celebration too. Because if you weren't with me on this journey, none of this would happen. So thank you. And then the second thing I want to say before I go is, I know I've tweeted about it a lot, but I haven't really talked about it in a video. I'm reading a fan fiction on Belladonna Took, which, if you're not a Lord of the Rings person, it's Bilbo's mom. And when Gandalf says, I know you have adventure in you from your Took side, that's always made me think, ooh, I wonder what the Took adventures were. And they're referenced very little bits here and there in The Hobbit and in Lord of the Rings. But I'm officially putting together Belladonna's story, and I wrote chapter 1. And because it's on Scrawl, it's a collaborative fan fiction. So other people get to submit entries for chapter 2, and then we all vote on them. And then other people get to submit for chapter 3, and we all vote on them. And anyway, we've picked 4 chapters now, and there's open entries for chapter 5. So if you ever wanted to get your fanfic writing on, you can do that on Scrawl. And at the end of all this, the Belladonna book is going to be published. And I'm like, woo, I'm going to be a published author. And you could be too if you join in, or if you just want to come and read and vote or whatever. But anyway, I'm having a great time with it. And I will put the link in the description below, but it's also scrawl.com, SKRAWL.com. And help me write Belladonna, and we'll get published, and it'll be awesome. All right, guys, thank you so much for watching The Naked Truth, and please feel free to submit a naked vlog of your very own from the shoulders up only. You can do that using the About section of this channel and click for business inquiries only and email it to me, and then let me know if you would like me to share that link in the description. Bye, guys. I'll see you next week.